Hey, thanks for coming.
No problem.
Are you ready for tomorrow?
Yeah, about that. After casing the area, I don't think it's a good idea. The plan isn't solid. There are too many possibilities for
Oh my
issues to
gosh, is
occur.
he really doing this?
And if we
If we don't
find
get this done now,
suspects,
it's never
the
gonna
story wouldn't
happen.
make
We're gonna lose our
sense.
opportunity. No
Look,
loose
man,
ends. No loose
I
ends.
don't
No
think
loose
it's
ends. No loose ends. He's
I don't
gotta
think it's
go.
the right time to do this.
He's gotta go.
What do you think?
He's gotta go.
Hey, what do you think?
Oh, yeah, I agree. Not the right time.
Hey, what's up? Back with another video. And other than that being probably one of the most horrendous things you guys have ever heard, especially it being the voiceover for myself, which I do promise they will get better in the future. Just on today's timeline and what I have got going on over the next couple of weeks, this is what had to be done. So that's where we're at. All right. So what's really important also is the idea of choosing what shots to choose. So last week we talked about the location of your camera and how you shoot things. Today we're going to talk about the importance of knowing like what the intent of your scene is. So before we get into it, I want to go talk to you about intent versus content. Content is what you are creating. It is very simple. The content is what's the scene. In this past scene is two people having a conversation. There are multiple ways you can shoot this. But when you do your intent versus your content, a lot of times a lot of times people will shoot this stuff and then make it happen in the edit. I agree to a point that that's a great way to do things. However, it's wasting a lot of time. And if you're in back in the day, if you were shooting film, this is more of a film technique than it is digital. I think a lot of people that have shot film in the past, or a lot of professional cinematographers that do this, will understand the idea of intent versus content for more than the average independent person that shoots only on digital. So the idea of intent versus content is what is the scene. Other people have said who owns the scene, because you're going to spend more time on that person, even in the edit, than you will outside the edit. So as you can tell, this interface is a little bit different than the last one. There's a new update to Satellite 3D, and I have a gnat bothering me right now, and it's driving me nuts, but I'm sorry about that. So we're going to start out by going over the shots that we had, right? So in the video, we have a setup with two people talking across the table. So there's a plan to rob or unalive someone or do something illegal, obviously, because they're meeting in a dark location. So this is the setup. Let me go to the setup. And the setup is basically one overhead light, another overhead light here. Um, and I could set up a third overhead light over the back behind her, which would be more realistic, but it would kind of take away from the rest of the scenes. Also, we have light being used with these light panels to basically back up what's actually happening in the scene with the practicals that are hanging over top of them. So, with that being said, let's get into the first shot. So, here's my first shot. It's a wide. I do have it animated, which is something new. Like, I'm still learning that, so I'm not going to show it to you this way. If you look at the overhead, we'll zoom out some. We got the camera here. Um, we got the uh, character here and here. And then we have a light panel here and a light panel there. These light panels, yes, we normally would shoot on the opposite side. We would normally shoot on the negative side of the shot. Um, and I don't think anybody would actually notice that we shot this way. But really, it's only meant to, again, get a little bit of detail in the background on the bricks on the wall. But it's not set up for the close-ups. So we shot here, right? And this is just to open the scene. This is just to introduce the man and the woman together. So the intent of the scene for me was to watch her reaction when he decides he's not cool with the plan. The owner of the scene is her as well. So we go from that to um, the next scene is him talking, right? Actually, to be honest with you, I think the way we cut it was this one. We cut it here because it's a nice open scene. She feels fine. The way that we have it shot is fine. She has a lot of open room. It looks like a neutral shot. Um, the camera's a little bit, or the little bit below eye line, tiny bit below eye line, I would say. But it's a nice even shot. The the lighting setup is I have a low panel here that's lighting her from the opposite side of the camera on this side, which you would notice it on the first if you go back to back and you pay attention to it, but you really don't notice it on the first like move. And if you did notice it, congratulations. Um, but that's not the point. I also put the light pointed towards the background on this one to show more patterns in the back. If you look right here on the actual image, I'll make the image a little bit bigger too. So if you look here on the image, I made it a little bit there, like so you get a little bit more imaging, more background information. Um, so that light panel right here, light panel number 2 is pointed back to show what's behind her. Because remember, we're in a neutral space right now. And then I go to him, which is a very similar shot to the last shot, a little bit closer. Um, this is when he starts to say his, oh, I don't really necessarily agree with it, but we have a little bit of information, so it's starting to get dark. The intent is it's getting dark to a place. This is when he starts to say, hey, I don't necessarily agree with the idea. I don't think it's a good plan. And this is when she starts to spiral. So when she starts to spiral, we go to this next shot, right? This next shot is her. She's backlit. There is no background. This is a dark time for her. There's no background light behind her, right? You get that little bit of light from the other panel to basically shine a light on the top of the chair. You have her face you have her face lit, and then you have a backlight from this light that is lighting him for his key on the other side, so we don't have to move it, but it's also doing another service and actually backlighting her. And it's so dark you can't see the pole that's right behind her. All right. So we go from there, and it's the same shot. She's just looking down. This is when she's really talking to herself, like, I can't believe that he's doing this, blah, blah, blah. If this doesn't get done, the thing happens. And then from there, we go to here, which is foreshadowing either an idea. It's either foreshadowing an idea or it's just showing you the weapon of choice, right? If I was to make the next scene, this would be probably part of the situation. But then she's finally broken out of that trance of her thinking, right? And we go back to her looking up, like, huh? Because she's surprised at what he just said, like she got his attention again. And then we cut to a direct shot on him, her POV of him saying, what do you think? And then we get her POV with a smile, kind of like she's agreeing, but we know now that she actually has a plan to eliminate him. So, with that being said, what we really need to start thinking about is our intent versus our content, right? The setup for itself is not necessarily as important, but like when we look at these scenes one by one, these shots one by one, right? Go from here to then here to then here, right? We're pretty much equal at this point, but this is the moment when he starts talking about the plan and how it will fail. And because of that, we go into her when she starts to spiral. She's like, wait, what? Starts talking, blah, blah, blah. If you watch the video, I even brought the audio down and then brought her audio, left her audio up so you can see what she's going through. She looks down. That's her looking down. Um, and from that, we can see what she's looking at, where she's making her plan to like no loose ends. She's got to end it to then being pulled out of the trance. When she gets pulled out of the trance, she's like, wait, what? Yeah. Huh? And he says, do you agree? When he says, do you agree? Sorry. Oh, gotta stop double clicking. When he says, do you agree? We have a straight on him looking at her, right? And then this is such an uncomfortable view for a standard like person to watch that it makes this one even more devious. That she's like, yeah, with a smile, with a little bit of a smile on her face, like, yeah, I do agree. It's the wrong time. So just remember when you're talking content versus intent, you got to remember content is what you're shooting. I'm shooting a scene with two people talking. Intent is the same could also be known as who owns the scene, right? Intent will allow you to tell more of the story without actually telling more of the story. But to keep taking because she said the line wrong, line wrong, line wrong, but then knowing that she's not going to be on screen for more than maybe 4 or 5 seconds, it kind of pulls away from that when you take 30 minutes to shoot one scene that should have taken you 5 minutes to shoot it because all the intention was on one character, but you wanted to get everybody's character. And to be honest with you, it didn't take 30 minutes. I was being nice. It actually took us 2.5 hours to shoot a 2 minute scene. And that drove me nuts because it was like, you're trying to make everything perfect when it's not going to be used. Knowing what your intent of every scene could speed up your workflow. Have fun, use it, or not. It's up to you. And I'll see you on the next one.